As journalists, we're exposed to trauma regularly. It's part of the job. Many people do it day after day. Journalists are highly resilient, but their risks of post-traumatic stress disorder tend to be higher than the general population. Now that might be because journalists run towards danger, just like many first responders, and they might face personal risk themselves. But they're also witnessing somebody else's trauma, and that might lead to something called vicarious or secondary trauma. In other words, the closer you get to other people's trauma, the more you put yourself at risk. Stress reactions are typical after a traumatic or challenging event. So you might feel shock or sadness, you might feel anger, you might feel a sense of numbness. These are perfectly usual and they should settle after a couple of months. If they don't, that's when longer term problems might set in and when you might need to ask for professional help. It's always important to think about why you're a journalist in the first place, because this can be quite protective. It's known as bearing witness. If we think about why we're doing this job, what we get out of it, why it's important to us, then that can mean that our stress reactions diminish in some way. I'm a psychologist, but I've also been a journalist for 35 years, working in daily news. And of course, as journalists, we work on threatening and dangerous events all the time. I wonder whether we get used to high levels of adrenaline and cortisol, and whether we don't really notice what's going on for us in the ways that other people might. There's some interesting research into a life-threatening activity, which is skydiving. And the researchers tested the cortisol levels of novice skydivers, those who'd never jumped out of a plane before, and skydivers who'd done it more than 1,000 times. They tested the cortisol before they jumped and when they landed, and what they discovered was the cortisol levels of the experienced jumpers and the novices were the same, but the experienced jumpers hadn't noticed any change in their anxiety levels. And that makes me think. I wonder, as journalists, whether we need to be even more attuned to our emotional responses, our behaviour, our thought patterns, than perhaps other people. And then we can spot when something has shifted and we can start to do something about it.